And we are back. Our featured guest tonight is doing fantastic work telling stories in his community in and around Dublin, Ireland. His page, Humans of Dublin, has hundreds of thousands of followers across social media, and his stories and portraits have shed light on countless communities, foundations, and people groups in Ireland who would never have had such exposure without him. Please give a warm weekly show welcome to Mr. Peter Varga. Peter, welcome to the show.
Hi, how you doing, David? Thanks for you to having me.
I'm sure many of our audience will have heard of Humans of Dublin, and I know that a lot of people follow Humans of New York here in the States. Tell us what Humans of Dublin is and a little bit about yourself, behind the lens.
Right. Yeah, so everyone probably knows Humans of New York already, and he was doing it already about 2 years when I discovered it through my girlfriend. My dream was to become a photographer, but I knew that if I want to be a successful photographer, I will have to specialize for something. So when my girlfriend, now my wife, introduced me to Humans of New York, that was combined two things that I really love. I love talking to people and the photography itself. And by the time I finished the course itself, I had more followers on my Facebook page than the school itself. And from then on, I just didn't stop.
In my mind, this is very skilled work that you do. How do you go about getting people to open up to you and tell you their stories? I mean, some of these stories are really, really personal.
Yeah, probably it's all about practice. The first part of the whole project was really on the streets. I was going out to the streets every single day, 5 days a week, and I was planning with a plan to approach 8 to 12 people. And from those, most of them obviously was I didn't have a background how to interview people properly. I'm not even from Dublin myself. I'm originally from Hungary. So it was all about practice, and by people turning me down and really wanting to make it work, eventually started to work. The most important thing probably is not even about the questions. It's about your interest. People will feel that you are truly interested in their stories, and when they feel that, they make them feel more comfortable and they open up.
And do you think that people, I mean, my experience has been that people, as a species, we kind of do want to tell our stories, don't we?
Absolutely. And especially this time that is becoming more and more serious, people are becoming more lonely, and they obviously have the stories to tell as well. And what I realized that everyone has a story to tell. You just have to ask the right questions to get it,
Well, and it's like when you're asked a question, sometimes it's harder to keep silent than it is to answer. It's some innate need that we have in ourselves, to communicate, isn't it?
To actually share it. That's right. Yes. The one of the things I always like to highlight that I never get to meet my grandparents. They died before I was born, and I always missed those conversations or having the opportunity to ask those questions that you would ask for your grandparents. And actually, throughout the years, I used Humans of Dublin to meet elderly people and ask the questions that I couldn't ask from them.
Oh,
and
wow.
Some of those interviews became the most successful interviews as well.
How have most of your portraits and stories come about? I mean, do you just go out on the street and just
Yes, I used to be walking around 6 to 8 hours on the street. Now it's a little different, and obviously because COVID came around as well. In the beginning, I was trying to create interviews online, but as you can feel it as well. Probably you usually have live guests and everything. Probably people are. It's not the same, especially when you're trying to have an honest and really long conversation with someone. So what I'm doing now is actually raise awareness through real life stories, and I partner up with different companies and charities that they would highlight stories that they already know, and then we use Humans of Dublin to raise awareness through real life stories. So I'm starting to specialize, and this is how I'm disconnecting from the Humans of New York team, is that I'm starting to focus on raising awareness through real life stories. So I would highlight 5 or 7 people on a specific topic, and they can open up and truly tell their experiences rather than featuring opinions. We create human stories. We talk about human stories.
Do you have kind of and I hate to put it this way, but do you have a way that you, for lack of a better way of putting it, profile you know, to know which people to talk to, in other words, are there certain signs that you can see that will tell you whether or not you think somebody's going to be the type that would open up to you, or do you just approach anybody that you think might be interesting and just hope that they're willing to talk to you?
Yeah, so as I said in the beginning, it was working a little differently. I was making 8 to 10 interviews, 8 to 12 interviews a day, and from those only 2 or 3 would make it to the page. So what I do is like I truly slow down, open up, and I try to make the best of every interview or every people I came across. And sometimes it can last for about 20 minutes, sometimes it can last for 1 hour. But there is no way that I will not come out from an interview with a story in my hand. So what I usually do, I have a recorder and I record the whole interview. And after I would come home and I would sit down and interview till I have the finished piece that is the strong story, you know?
Now, at this point, you've must have been introduced to like this wide array of humanity. You know, what do you think has been your most groundbreaking or personally enlightening takeaway from all this?
It's going to sound like a cliche, but it's so true that, like, first of all, everyone has a story, and everyone is facing difficulties in their lives. It's just a different level of approach for everyone, and people in general, they want to share their stories. Probably these are the most important, yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because I've had this conversation with my father before where, you know, you look at somebody and there's a surface image some people have, and you think everything is perfect on the surface, or it looks very polished and perfect and pretty. But the reality is everybody does have their issues and challenges, or have had to overcome challenges to get to that point.
That's right. Yes, yes. So many of the people are in our island as well, especially around. That's why I like to highlight specific topics at this stage, because you can highlight a specific theme and you can approach it for all different angles and see that like even the same problem can be solved or faced in different ways by different people.
So here's what I want to do. I wanted to talk to you about how you're doing things now a little bit. I want to talk to you also about some specific stories, but I want to do that. We've got to go to a quick commercial break. Can you stick around for the second half of the show?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll come right back with Peter Varga.